When she ended the call, she placed her phone on her chest and smiled. 4 weeks, she whispered to herself. Just enough to make him believe and not enough to make him ask questions. The next morning, Amara noticed Rita humming again, calm, deliberate, victorious. You're in a good mood today, Amara said quietly. Rita smiled. Happiness is a choice, darling. What happened? Rita turned to her, eyes glinting. Let's just say life is finally giving me back what it owes me. Amara frowned, confused. But when she noticed Rita's hand resting protectively on her stomach, a strange chill ran through her. Days later, Amara's father gathered everyone in the living room. He was beaming. Amara! He shouted happily. You're going to be a big sister. Amara froze. What? Rita smiled from the couch. Doctor says I'm about 4 weeks along. Amara felt her throat tighten. 4 weeks? The same time she herself was almost 9 weeks. She could barely breathe. Congratulations, she forced out, her voice barely audible. Rita smiled warmly, eyes never leaving hers. Thank you, my dear. God's timing is always perfect. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay on her bed, heart pounding, trying to make sense of everything. Rita had found her test. Rita had taken her to that clinic. Now Rita was claiming to be pregnant at the same time as her. It wasn't coincidence. It was theft, she whispered to herself. She's using my baby. The next morning, while Rita was out for a checkup, Amara sneaked into her room again. She opened drawers carefully, hands trembling. Inside a brown envelope, she found what she'd been hoping not to see, the same hospital report from Dr. E.O. Ajayi, Victoria Island. Her name was scratched out. Rita's was written in perfect handwriting above it. At the bottom, one line glared up at her like a slap. Gestation. 8 weeks, 3 days. Her tears fell onto the paper. 4 weeks, she told him. She whispered bitterly. 4. She sank to the floor, clutching the file, shaking with rage and fear. That evening, when Rita returned home glowing, her husband ran to hug her. What did the doctor say? He asked. Rita smiled, resting her hand on her stomach. Everything's perfect. Our baby is growing fast. Over his shoulder, her eyes met Amara's sharp and knowing. And in that cold, steady stare, Amara understood. Rita hadn't just stolen her secret. She'd stolen her life. Amara lay awake long after everyone had gone to bed. The house was silent except for the faint tick of the hallway clock. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. She knew what she had to do. Rita's guard was low tonight. She had gone to bed early, humming happily after speaking to Toby on the phone. Amara had heard her through the thin walls, her soft, fake laughter. The kind that always meant she had won again. Amara couldn't let her win. Not this time. She dressed quietly, a dark hoodie, slippers, the little money she had hidden inside her old school bag. The corridor floor creaked once as she tiptoed past Rita's door, and she froze. No sound, no movement. Her breath steadied. She slipped out through the back gate and into the street. The night air was cold against her skin. Okada riders waited at the junction, their headlights dim like fireflies. She waved one down. Where you dey go this kind time? The man asked sleepily. Ikoyi off Queen's Drive. Madam, na far. I beg, I go pay. The man looked at her again, shrugged and nodded. Hold tight. By the time they got to Toby's estate, it was almost midnight. The security man at the gate frowned at her. Who you dey find this night? Toby Adekunle. Please tell him Amara is here. He hesitated. This time, please. It's important. Something in her voice, soft but desperate, made him believe her. He called the intercom. A few minutes later, the gate opened. Toby appeared at the door, wearing a white t-shirt and confusion. Amara? Tears filled her eyes the moment she saw him. You've been calling me, right? I swear I didn't block you. She did. Rita? He led her inside quickly, locking the door behind them. Slow down. What happened? She told him everything how Rita found out, how she stole the test, the hospital report, even how she scratched her name off the scam. Toby listened silently, his jaw tightening with every word. When she finished, her voice broke. She's lying to everyone, Toby, even to my father. And now the whole world will believe her. He sat back slowly, breathing hard. I knew something didn't feel right. I just didn't have proof. She wiped her tears. Now you do. But nobody will believe me if I tell them. She already looks like the victim. He nodded slowly. Then we'll have to make her expose herself. Amara blinked. How? You'll go back home, he said quietly. Act normal. Pretend we never met tonight. What? If she suspects anything, she'll move first. She'll try to prove her fake pregnancy. That's how we catch her. Amara shook her head. That's risky. She could hurt me. I won't let her, he said firmly. Just trust me, Amara. This time, she'll trap herself. He took her hand, his voice gentler. Be brave. For our baby. Her tears fell again, but this time they weren't from fear. Before dawn, he arranged a driver to take her home quietly. She slipped into the house just as the first cock crowed. No one saw her. Amara couldn't sleep after returning from Toby's house. She lay awake, heart racing, her head full of his words. Let her trap herself, but as dawn crept in, another voice rose inside her, one that had been quiet too long. No, she wouldn't wait anymore. She was done hiding. If Rita could lie, then she could fight. The next morning, the house smelled of fried plantain and deceit. Rita was humming softly, plating breakfast like a woman whose life was perfect. Amara walked into the kitchen, her steps heavy, her face calm but cold. Good morning, Rita said lightly, not looking up. Morning, Amara replied. Rita glanced at her briefly, then smiled. You look tired. Maybe rest a little after breakfast. You need your strength. Amara's voice was low but firm. You should save your strength too. Rita's hands froze on the plate. Excuse me? Amara stepped closer, eyes sharp. I know what you did. You used my test. You stole my scan. You even wrote your name over mine. Rita's lips tightened, but she said nothing. You think you can play everyone, Amara continued. But I've spoken to Toby. He knows the truth now. That made Rita turn, slowly. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes darkened. You went to him? She asked quietly. Yes, and I told him everything. You're not pregnant, Rita. I am. So stop pretending before I tell everyone. For a moment, silence filled the kitchen. Then Rita smiled faintly, that cold, practiced smile that always came before her cruelty. You really think anyone will believe you? She asked softly. They will, because this time I'll make them. Rita laughed once, low and dangerous. You poor, foolish child. You've forgotten who you're dealing with. You think you can destroy me with your little story. It's not a story, Amara said. It's the truth. Rita moved closer, her perfume thick, her eyes glinting like glass. "And I'll destroy your truth before it ever leaves your mouth." Amara didn't back down. "Try me." Rita smiled wider. "Oh, I will." That afternoon, the war began. Rita called her husband first. Her voice broke perfectly as she said, "Darling, I'm worried about Amara. She's been saying strange things, accusing me of stealing her life, her scan, her everything. I think grief has made her unstable." Her husband's voice was full of concern. "What? Why would she say that?" "I don't know," Rita whispered tearfully. "But I think she's jealous. You know how girls get when attention shifts. I didn't want to tell you, but I think she needs help." He promised to talk to his daughter later. Rita ended the call and smiled. Then she dialed Toby. "Toby," she said softly, "I don't know what Amara told you, but she's been acting out of control. My husband is worried. Maybe we should make things clear publicly." "Publicly?" he repeated, suspicious. "Yes. So there's no more gossip. I'll go for a confirmation scan and let everyone see the truth. I want peace, Toby. That's all." He hesitated. "Rita, don't make things worse." "Trust me," she said, her tone calm but desperate. "This will end everything." When she hung up, her hands trembled slightly. She had lied for weeks, but now she needed proof that didn't exist. The only way to win was to act before anyone else did. That night, Amara's father called her into the sitting room. He looked tired, confused. "Amara, Rita told me what's been happening. Why are you saying such things?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, she's lying. I swear, she's using me. Enough," he snapped. "That woman has done nothing but care for you. Don't repay kindness with madness." Rita sat quietly beside him, her face soft, her hands folded like a saint's. When Amara looked at her, Rita's lips curved in a silent warning. "You asked for this." Later that night, Rita went to the mirror. She stared at her reflection for a long time, at her perfect face, her flawless lie. Then she whispered to herself, "Tomorrow they'll all believe me. Even God will have to." And in the next breath, she called the same hospital that had once seen Amara's scan. "Hello, Dr. Ajayi," she said sweetly. "Yes, it's Mrs. Okafor. I'd like to confirm my pregnancy tomorrow publicly. My husband and some reporters will attend." She hung up and exhaled. It was risky. It was insane, but it was the only way to bury the truth. In her room, Amara sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her stomach. Her heart was pounding, but not from fear this time. "Let her try," she whispered. "Let her stand in front of the world, because this time she won't come out clean." The Okafor house was alive before sunrise. Rita moved like a woman who had been waiting her whole life for this day. She dressed in soft white lace, tied a bright gold scarf, and dusted her cheeks with powder until her reflection smiled back like a saint. 2 reporters were already in the living room, setting up cameras. She had invited them herself. Today, she would confirm her pregnancy to the world, her miracle, her redemption, her lie. Her husband, Mr. Okafor, couldn't stop smiling. "Rita, are you sure about this? It's too public. We can do the scan quietly," he said gently. She touched his hand with a loving smile. "My husband, after all these years, won't it be good for people to see that God finally answered us?" He nodded, emotion in his eyes. "You're right. Let the world see God's glory." Behind them, Amara stood quietly on the stairs, watching everything with her arms folded. Rita turned and smiled. "Come along, dear. You should be there to witness a miracle, Amara's voice was calm but sharp. Miracles don't need cameras, Rita. Rita's smile twitched. Still jealous? Don't worry, child. One day you'll understand what it means to be loved. The drive to Dr. Ajayi's private clinic was silent. Rita held her husband's hand in the front seat, whispering rehearsed prayers. Amara sat in the back, clutching her palms, whispering her own. When they arrived, the reporters followed them in. Nurses at the reception whispered excitedly. The Okafor miracle story had already spread. Dr. Ajayi came out, startled by the cameras. Madam Rita, you didn't tell me we were going live today. Rita laughed softly, adjusting her scarf. Forgive me, doctor. I just want to thank God publicly. He nodded slowly, sensing something strange but too polite to question her. Inside the scan room, the light was dim and quiet. Rita lay down gracefully on the bed, adjusting her wrapper. Her husband stood beside her, smiling like a man reborn. The cameraman stood ready, filming her serene face. Dr. Ajayi applied the gel to her stomach and began moving the probe gently. Everyone's eyes turned to the monitor. The screen glowed black and stayed that way. He frowned, adjusted the settings, and tried again. Still nothing. Rita chuckled nervously. Doctor, maybe it's too early. You said sometimes the baby hides, right? The doctor didn't answer immediately. He leaned closer to the screen, his brow furrowed. Madam, he said carefully, how many weeks did you say you are? 4, she replied quickly. Almost 5. He stared at the screen for a moment, then lowered the probe and wiped the gel away. Madam, I'm afraid this scan shows no pregnancy. Apparently, Toby had learned of Rita's scheme to forge her pregnancy from Dr. Ajayi, and he instructed the doctor to expose her. The room went still. Even the camera stopped moving. What? Rita whispered. Her husband frowned deeply. Doctor, what are you saying? Sir, the doctor said quietly, there is no sign of conception, no fetus, no sac. Madam Rita is not pregnant. The words dropped like stones. Rita sat up abruptly, her eyes wide, panic spilling through her voice. That's a lie. It's too soon. Maybe the machine is not working. The doctor held up her file. This is your name, Mrs. Rita Okafor. I'm very sorry the scan is clear. There's no baby. Mr. Okafor stepped back, shock all over his face. Rita, what's going on here? She did it! Rita screamed suddenly, pointing at Amara. That girl! She cursed me. She's been jealous since the day she found out I'm pregnant. All eyes turned to Amara. She took a slow step forward, her voice steady and clear. No, Daddy, I didn't curse her. I'm the one who's pregnant. She's been lying all along. The room froze. Mr. Okafor blinked, confused. What did you just say? Tears filled Amara's eyes, but her voice stayed firm. She used my pregnancy test, my scan, and even scratched my name off the report. She stole my truth. Rita shouted over her. She's mad! Don't believe her! She's trying to ruin me! But Amara didn't stop. She turned toward her father, her voice breaking. Daddy, I swear on Mama's grave, I'm telling the truth. The baby is mine. Mr. Okafor swallowed hard. Yours? Then whose child? And then, through tears, Amara said it loud and clear. Toby Adekunle's. The room erupted in shock. The doctor froze. The cameraman gasped audibly. Mr. Okafor's face turned pale. Toby Adekunle? The businessman? Amara nodded weakly. Yes, Daddy. He's the father. Rita's voice cracked into a scream. You slept with him? You took him from me, you foolish child. Amara's tears streamed freely now. You took everything from everyone. You even took my life and tried to wear it. Mr. Okafor turned slowly toward his wife, rage and betrayal boiling in his eyes. So it's true, he said hoarsely. You lied to me. You used her pregnancy to trap me. Rita shook her head violently. No, I did it for love, for this family. He shouted. You did it for attention, for greed, for yourself. You've disgraced me, Rita. The cameras caught every moment her tears, his anger, Amara's trembling truth. And just like that, the empire of Rita Okafor's lies came crashing down. By evening, the internet had swallowed the story whole. Wife fakes pregnancy with stepdaughter's scan life scan reveals empty womb. People called it karma. Some called it madness. Everyone agreed it was shame. That night, Mr. Okafor packed his things and left the house. Rita Okafor sat alone in the dark, her scarf undone, her face pale. From the doorway, Amara stood silently, her hand resting gently on her real growing belly. You said lies build kingdoms, Amara said softly. But they also bury the queens who build them. Rita looked up at her, eyes red. You think you've won? There was never a competition, Amara whispered. There was only truth. She turned and walked away. And for the first time in years, Rita Okafor had nothing left. Not her husband, not her pride, not even her lie. 6 months after the scandal, the Adedayo house stood silent. The curtains stayed drawn, the gate rusted halfway open. Inside, Rita Adedayo sat in the living room alone, staring at the old family photos that no longer looked like her life. Her husband had moved out. Neighbors crossed the street when they saw her. Only the sound of the ticking wall clock kept her company. Then she heard the news that shattered what little pride she had left. Amara Adedayo had given birth healthy twin boys. The hospital pictures were everywhere. The young mother glowing, Toby Adekunle standing beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. The headlines called it A Love Redeemed. Rita turned off her phone, but the laughter in those photos stayed in her head. If she couldn't have peace, she decided no one else would. Rain pounded that night as Rita slipped through the back gate, a kitchen knife hidden in her purse. She told herself she only wanted to talk to Amara, to see the children, but the ache in her chest had already turned to something darker. At the hospital, the guards barely noticed the soaked woman under the shawl. She moved quietly through the dim corridor until she reached the small ward marked Private, Amara Adekunle. Inside, Amara was asleep, the twins beside her, the soft light of the bedside lamp bathing the room. Rita's hand trembled as she pulled out the knife. "Forgive me," she whispered. "I just want the pain to stop." Before the blade could drop, a firm hand caught her wrist. Toby stood behind her, his voice low but cold. "You really came here to finish what your lies started?" She froze, her eyes wild. "She took everything from me." "You destroyed yourself," he said, "and this time I won't let you destroy anyone else." 2 security men burst in as Toby wrested the knife from her hand. Rita fell to her knees, sobbing. "I only wanted to be loved." Toby looked down at her for a long moment. "You were, until you chose to lie." They led her away in silence. A year later, time softened what chaos couldn't. Rita was transferred to a rehabilitation center on the outskirts of Lagos. She spent her days watering small plants and humming to children who weren't there. Sometimes she would ask the nurses, Do they still talk about me? The nurses always change the subject. Amara, meanwhile, healed slowly. When the twins turned 1, she wore a simple white dress and married Toby in a quiet ceremony by the water. Only close friends and family attended. Even Mr. Adedayo came, humbled and tearful, blessing his daughter and the man who had stood by her. The papers called it the wedding that silenced gossip. But for Amara, it wasn't about gossip, it was about peace. A few months after the wedding, she re-enrolled in university. She wanted to finish what she'd started before the chaos began. Every morning, before classes, she would kiss the twins and whisper, "Mama's learning again for all of us." Each time, Toby helped with feedings and late-night lullabies, balancing business meetings with bottles of milk. They laughed easily now, the sound of a family that had earned its happiness. And then 3, the last visit. One cloudy afternoon, Amara visited the rehabilitation center. Rita sat by the garden, thinner, quieter, her eyes distant. For a while, neither spoke. Then Rita said softly, "You look like your mother." Amara nodded. "I named one of the twins after her." Rita smiled faintly, tears welling. Good. She was a good woman. They sat in silence until Amara stood to leave. Rita whispered, "I'm sorry." Amara turned. "I forgave you a long time ago." And as she walked away, the wind carried the faint sound of Rita's voice singing to no one in particular. A broken lullaby for the life she'd lost. This meant the end. That evening, back home, Toby held Amara close as their boy slept between them. "You see," he whispered, "truth always finds a home." Amara smiled, tired but peaceful. "And lies," she murmured, "always run out of breath." Outside, Lagos lights flickered like tiny blessings, and somewhere far away, the last echoes of deceit faded into the night.